Hello, everyone, and welcome to Painless Universal, a conversation with myself and Welsh. Today, I'll be talking to Leanna. Leanna is such an inspirational lady, and she's shown us how you could turn your pain into joy. She's someone who really reminds me of myself. Her experiences seems to reflect with my own. In her book, Take Control, she really teaches you how to go about with your life, fixing your own problem, because no one else in this world can. She's an entrepreneur, an author, mentor, philanthropist, and most recently, breast cancer survivor. She founded her first dance enterprise at the tender age of 15 and has gone on to dedicate most of her adult life to creating innovative, community-focused dance and performance. During her 18-year career, Leanna has generated over $250,000 worth of funding through her dance enterprise. The movement factor has reached to so many young people, over 500,000 people, has been benefited of this factory. She's a woman who can take the worst that life can throw at them and turn it into a good force. Meet Leanna. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Painless Universal Conversation with myself and Welsh. And I have the gorgeous Leanna here with me. Thank you so much, Leanna. Thank you for joining us. As I said in my intro, guys, she is someone if you don't know Leanna, go Google her, find out about her, because her story will blow you away. You know, what she's been through, but never letting that stop her. You know, I really was blown away by your story because you do not let things stop you.
No.
There's a quote you left out there about the water, the wave quote, and I read that and I was like, actually, that's very true about life. If you let life come, the wind will blow you away, the water will blow you and just leave you on the side bed. So it's up to you to pick up yourself and keep going. That is an amazing. But before we get into that, for those who don't know you, I don't know why, but for those who don't, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Leanna Perot. Hello, everybody. Where do I start? So I think one of the early memories that I had that I like to share with people when I start. So I was a child sexual abuse victim. So at 13, I ended up moving out of my family home, and I had also founded a love of dancing as well at the same time. And I always credit dance for saving my life, which prompted me to start my first dance company at 15 years old, because of the benefits and everything I got out of dance whilst I was going through such a difficult time in those monumental years when you're still developing into a young woman. I credit dance highly for just motivating me and keeping me sane during those difficult times. So I started my first dance company at 15. And then I've been running that for 20 years now. And then I also wrote a book. I've written a book as well in that time. I've done a lot of, speaking events and things like that about inspiring and motivating young people using dance as a tool. I, come from a very poor background. I grew up in Peckham in South London. So I speak often about the limits that are put on people, people of colour who, come from very poor backgrounds and the limitations that we can put on ourselves. And I try and inspire and motivate young people to, understand that you can achieve anything. So I released a book at 30, thinking that, I'm about to start proper life now because, I've been through it all: depression, sexual abuse. I've run this business because at the time it was 15 years, and I released the book at 30, not knowing 6 months later that I'd be diagnosed with breast cancer.
Goodness.
So then I went through my breast cancer journey and came out. I set up a charity. I'm very active in the community, so I just saw it as something that I couldn't turn a blind eye on after having an insight in that horrific world at such a young age. I also wanted to try and use that as a tool to motivate other women, particularly women of colour. So I set up my own cancer charity. which is doing really, really well in an amazing program. And then I've just launched another business. So yes, I do it all. I do it all.
You know, that bit is what fascinates me about yourself, is that how you were able to do it all. But
Yeah.
the dance thing started from the abuse. When did you find it in you? How did you know that this was the direction you needed to go to, was dance? How did the dance call you?
Yeah, I think dance called me it was really weird when I started secondary school,
Mm,
and there was a youth centre attached to my secondary school, which doesn't happen often, but
mm,
we actually had a youth centre attached to our secondary school, and they came and asked us, what do you want to do? You know, they'd come around the playgrounds and stuff when we'd hang out after school doing nothing, and they'd say, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? And I've always loved dancing. So I remember saying, do you do dance? And they were like, yeah. So I was like, okay, cool, we'll go and check it out. So at 11 years old, that's when I started to get into dancing, and we did shows and things like that. And it was just those feel good feelings that I got from dance, you know, just the art of just expression and letting yourself go. I loved that. And I think that that's what got me hooked. So
mm,
when I went through this really terrible, terrible incident that no young person or child should have to go through, it was dance, you know, that I credit for saving me through that, because it gave me the tools. You know, there's some really big key skills in dance that you learn. And
mm.
it was those key skills that kind of really pulled me through.
That's amazing. Because you didn't just take on dance, you also took it on as a
Yeah,
business.
yeah, I did. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So how would you translate something that's to your passion, something you love doing, and
Okay.
say, okay, I do love doing this, but actually I should turn it into something to helping others as well, because you've helped so many kids and you find their voice. I think almost 500,000 kids you've done
Yeah.
in your circle of doing this business. How did you move from passion to business?
All honesty, not on purpose. You know, I'm very clear with everybody, and I say to everyone, if someone told me
Mm,
what I was going to get myself into and go through in this 20 years of business, I would have told them I'm not doing it
yeah, yeah.
because it's hard.
Mm,
But it was like you said, you used one key word, and it was passion, you know, and that's what led me through. I didn't say I'm going to start a business at 15. What I said at 15 was dance has really helped me through the toughest time of my life so far.
mm,
I want others to be able to feel that same way that I have from
mm,
dance. And
mm,
I want to be able to teach others the art of using dance as a tool. That was my passion. And then from there, it was just that people said, come and do this and I'll pay you. And, you know, I didn't understand the concept of all of that at 15, you know, and then that's how it grew. But
mm,
everything was always very passion led. Same with the cancer charity now,
mm,
all passion led, not on purpose.
mm.
So I think when you're following, I think there's a very big, you know, piece of advice for anybody out there. When you're following your passion, you know, at whatever cost, because believe me, I had no money in the bank, and you know, a lot of people think, oh yeah, but you might have the money to start it up. I didn't. I
Mm.
worked my butt off in retail and in all other jobs that I didn't really want to do, but my passions were so strong, I kept that going on the sidelines. And you do when you have a passion and it's genuine.
Wow. That is really fantastic that you did that, because I mean, you've helped so many other kids. Can you tell us some of the inspirational stories that you've seen that has helped happen to do some of the kids that you've taught
Oh,
dancing?
there's so many. I have so many stories of that. I've got students now who are in their 30s, which, like, you know, a few years younger than me as well. At the time, I think they thought I was a lot older than what I was, which is fine. But you know, I've got students now that are mothers, you know, that have gone on to be, you know, they've got kids, you know, that are teenagers now. I've
Mm,
got, you know, somebody who's just gone and opened up a law firm. I have someone who has danced on, you know, in West End shows and toured. You know, it's not just one, there's a couple of them that have gone on to do that. I've got people that have gone on to, you know,
mm,
have like their, you know, get their degrees by using dance as a way that's empowered them to go off to make sure that they go to uni and, you know, have the confidence to go and do these things. I have students that travel back and forth from here to the States because they live their life 50-50 doing, you know, jobs here and jobs over there. So, and my biggest success stories are those that feel empowered to lead happy lives.
mm,
You know, I constantly get messages from people saying, if I didn't have dance, I don't know what I would have done. And I laugh because I'm like, if I didn't have it, I don't know either. You know, if we
yeah.
didn't have, you know, the company and that around as an outlet for people to come to, then who knows where they would have been. It was their place. They could express themselves, feel good. You know, there's so much different elements of dance, the discipline, the sense of achievement and being, you know, just being heard and being seen. These are things that so many young people actually don't get to actually experience, you know, and people need to understand a lot of this stuff is not happening. This learning is not happening in the home or at school. So for dance and an extracurricular activity like that, the amount of things they're learning from it is just huge. And I believe that's why we're still here 20 years later, you know.
Yeah, I think so.
It's that, and for people to say, Leanne, I'm happy and I'm healthy and these things, it's so important.
Yeah, because it's all about keeping fit as well. Because one of the things I love about dance, and I encourage my kids to take it up, is the fitness level as well. You're keeping fit and while enjoying what you're doing. So
Absolutely.
it's a no-brainer to someone who's just looking for an easy way to release stress. And I'm so glad you did it. In doing so, did you write your book at the same time, or was your book written after the cancer?
So my book was written before the cancer.
Oh my goodness, because that book is so powerful. Take control.
Oh, really?
That book is really, really good.
I'm embarrassed because, you know, it's so funny. I wrote the book at 27 and I was going through really, really bad depression, and I wrote it within a week. Okay, I wrote it within a week, no lie. I woke up every day and I wrote a chapter.
Yeah.
So it's a small book. And it took me 3 years to be brave enough to actually release it as this motivational sort of style book. And at the time, you think you know everything about life, you know, because I was like, yep, I'm 30, I've written the book and on how to live life, you know. And how ironic it was 6 months later that I'd be dealt with actually the very thing that has taught me so much.
The one thing that really has been as work, because that involves you. That other one, you know, other ones you have control over, the abuse you have control over, because you could say, I leave the house, you don't touch me anymore. But that's why I always say to people, because I have a chronic illness, when it's your health, it's a whole ball game. It's different.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly that. And that.
So the book is just such a mind, it's really, I don't know, it's really a hand guide, because you're really step by step telling people this is almost like saying to you in a nice way, guys, you can do it. Stop feeling pity in yourself. Just get up and just do what you have to do. So how did that come about? Was there something going on in your mind? You said you were going through depression, but was the depression that mild, or what made you to really
I think it was going through the depression, but also realizing I went through this stage of depression when I was giving a really, the very thing I live my life by right now, which is gratitude. And I remember in the darkest days of when I felt really ill with just bad feelings, my sister gave me a gratitude book. And she said, fill this out. And I was sort of gave her a hard time. I don't really know why you're giving this to me, blah, blah, blah. And no lie, I picked it up a few days later and I've never put that practice down ever since. Just giving thanks for the very small things in life. And I think because I was giving so much gratitude, I was practicing gratitude on a daily basis. And for those that don't know what practicing gratitude is, there's no wrong or right way. It's just, I woke up and I wrote 10 things I was really thankful for and 10 things that I really wanted to have in my life. But I did it as if I already have it. So for me, like, I did that every day and my mood dramatically increased. And I think I got to a place where I realized that I was no longer feeling the same way I did. It was about change and how do I go from here? The solutions started coming, you know, and I was then sitting there thinking, I'm not the only person that feels like this. Obviously, running a business, doing all these things with young people my own age, I realized there was so many other people that were going through such a tough time. And so I wanted to say to everybody, come on, let's do this. We can do it. Come on. Like, let's be honest with ourselves. That's another thing as well. I started, and that was when I really started to practice the art of being honest, because I was a kind of a smokescreen. A lot of people didn't know that I was depressed. until I started talking about it. And I was going around running a business like normal, and it made me feel worse.
Yeah.
And actually turning around and saying, guys, I'm not okay and I need some time off, was the best thing I ever done. And I remember I took 8 weeks off over the summer and just had 8 weeks to myself. I was self-employed and I didn't care that I didn't have any money. I just needed it to get better. And it did me the world of good.
Wow.
Mm.
That's amazing. I'm so grateful for that book, because anyone who's going through that similar thing right now will actually find it in them to just, pick up themselves. It's not a self-pity book. It's a self-inspiring book, because it really inspires you and gives you step by step what to do. Your breast cancer diagnosis.
Mm.
Tell me about that. If anyone is going through that same stage, you just talk me, how did you first know you had, because I think that's a misconception about breast cancer, is that a lot of us, we hear it.
Yeah.
We always wish it's never going to be us,
Mm.
but we're never sure what are those key signs. How did you know, Leanne, that you had cancer?
Yeah, I think it's crazy. My mum has had breast cancer twice before. One at 36 years old. So that was, at the time, it was about 24 years prior to my own diagnosis. But she also had breast cancer the same month I released the book for the second time. So the month I released the book, which is February 2016, in March 2016, she was diagnosed with breast cancer in her second breast. So I was the one that was helping her through that and whatever. But it was great because they caught it early, and she didn't have to have any treatment. She just had to have a full mastectomy, and that was it. So that was great. And I remember after that and the stress of that, I went on holiday. And I remember on that holiday, I was very, very, very unwell. And I'd paid a lot of money for this holiday and I really needed it. And I remember I couldn't get out of bed for like 7 days. I was being sick. I was so tired. I couldn't eat anything. It was almost like my body crashed and I did not know what to do. And when I came back, I started to feel a lump in my breast, and I thought I was being paranoid because of what happened to my mum. I remember going to the doctors and they said, "Oh, you're too young to have breast cancer."
What do you mean feeling up? Were you feeling your?
Yeah. I always, because my mum had breast cancer twice.
Yeah.
I would always feel all over my breasts anyway, and I had quite large breasts at the time, so I never really knew what I was checking for. So what I used to do was go to the doctors and get them to check. I used to actually say, just check me. Whether it was a man or a woman, I did not care. I used to say, can you check my breasts? Because I wanted to always be on the safe side. And I remember saying to him, and he said, "Oh, don't worry, you're too young to have breast cancer, don't worry. And what your mum had, her breast cancer, you won't have that, and da 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 da." So I got dismissed. Anyway, this lump got bigger and bigger, and my tiredness got worse and worse. So I ended up going on another mini holiday, came back from that. The lump had grown, and I remember going to my masseuse, and she said to me, "That lump doesn't feel right. Make sure you go to the doctors tomorrow." And I said, "I can't just walk into my doctors. You have to book an appointment and blah, blah, blah." And she said, "No, tell them it's urgent." She said, that does not feel right. And I kid you not, if it wasn't for her, I don't know where I would be, because I tried to hide from her. And she said, because I said I was going to just book an appointment and it would be nothing. No, she called me the next day and she said, "If you do not go, I will drive down there and take you to the doctors myself." And you know what? I called my doctors and I told them, and they gave me an appointment that same day, which has never happened. And I went into the doctors and they felt it. It was a completely new doctor, and it was a woman as well. And she said, "I don't like the feel of that. I'm sending you on for tests." So within 7 days, I had this emergency scan at the hospital. So that's how it started for me. Yeah.
Wow. So it's quite important that we actually take note of these signs, because you really mentioned a key thing there. You said tiredness. You were feeling unwell, you were feeling tired, and there was this lump.
Yeah.
And those are key signs, warning signs that something is going on in your body, that your body's not happy, your white blood cells are overfighting. They're fighting something is not wrong. I'm really glad you shared that bit, because I think for me, that's a crucial bit. I always worry about the beginning because
Mhm.
the other bit is always, yeah, you get treated, but the beginning is what is this the second split between life and death if
Mhm.
it's not diagnosed quickly.
Mhm.
How did you take it when they told you though that you also have cancer?
No, I was devastated. I was, it, I was so shocked. I went into a state of such shock and anxiety. I was actually on their list to be, to worry about, because I was that anxiety filled. I felt like I thought I was gonna die. I was I couldn't eat. I was nil by mouth. You know, this was for a few weeks. The only thing I could drink every day was a few sips of juice. That's how shocked I was. I was a person who had danced all my life, fit, healthy, always in the gym. The most thing I ever liked to do was have a lovely alcoholic drink on the weekends, but that nobody could fault me for anything else. I ate very healthily. Obviously, I go around talking about healthy lifestyles and, health and well-being. And most of all, at that point as well, I was doing a lot of self-work as well. And I was completely shocked that my body had failed me at 30 years old. And that's what I said. I said, my body's failed me. And I kid you not, I I felt ashamed.
Mm.
I felt ashamed as well. I felt ashamed. How could I be 30? You know, I'm a black girl. Hardly anybody else who's black has got cancer. Cancer is not a black disease. I had that all misconceptions in my head.
Mm.
And I felt like I was being picked on. Like, why me?
Yeah.
You know,
Did
after everything that I'd been through, why me to go through this journey?
you feel because there's sort of this thing we don't really cut our hair and having losing all your hair.
Yeah,
Was that also a fear of yours as well?
yeah,
The
of
physical
course,
appearance, yeah, yeah.
of course. It was a big, big fear. Um,
Because I think that's one
yeah,
thing, yeah, that worries a lot of people when they think of the cancer treatment. Is
yeah,
that the fear of having to
yeah.
have that image?
Mm.
That you went through it and you survived. So
Mm.
that's really a testimony. How long did it take you to go through the process of from being diagnosed to getting better?
To getting better. So it took, so in my whole journey, I started chemo very quickly. But from diagnosis to, operation to being given the all clear, it took, well, just say from October to beginning of, end of June. So October, so that. So
Literally almost a year. Almost.
you're looking at almost a year. But
Yeah.
I don't want people to think, oh, it's a year of treatment and all this sort of stuff. It wasn't a year of all doom and gloom. It wasn't. For me, there's so many stages to cancer. There's the diagnosis, there's the part where you start the treatment and you're recovering, and then there's the aftermath of cancer. There's so many different phases that people don't understand.
Mm.
Um, and each stage is a different physical battle and mental battle, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Right.
Um, and I think that that's the parts that people do not understand enough. And actually, the rebuilding of your life after cancer, if
Mm.
you are lucky enough to be given an all clear, result,
Mm.
is actually a lot harder than the treatment itself.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I read an article where you talked about the treatments with Black people and white patient, breast cancer sufferer. Why did you feel the need to talk about that? Because I understand where you're coming from,
Yeah.
because the treatment can be very difficult at times. What prompted you? Did you experience anything that really made you feel like, okay, this is not normal. I should be getting this treatment, but why is mine taking a little bit longer than others?
The thing is, I come from such a mixed upbringing. Like, I grew up in Norfolk. My grandma is a white lady. My mum is mixed race. I very, very multicultural upbringing. So I didn't have the same experience as other women who are Black women like me. I
Hmm.
didn't, because I've been through cancer with my mum. I know what to ask the doctors for. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
But why I started my cancer foundation, and the project Black Women Rising, and why
Hmm.
I created my program,
Yeah.
is because what these doctors and consultants and people who are in charge of our healthcare do not understand are cultural needs. Because that's what it comes down to. It's not a case of a black woman going in there into a room and that doctor's not nice to her. It's not that. Even though that does happen, it's not that. And that's not why my project exists. My project exists because there are injustices in our health system that are making people's care and experience very traumatizing due to lack of understanding. One of the biggest things that I do in my cancer charity is tell the stories of, and I'm not just talking about cancer stories, the whole stories of these people's lives, because we're not given a platform to talk about our cancer experiences in our lives. We're not given, when you see on the television and the newspapers these amazing stories of people going through cancer and coming out the other end, very rarely are these people black. Are these people young black women? You know, because when I went on the ward and I saw all these people and the people that reached out to me when I started blogging about cancer, I came across hundreds. Why aren't these people being shown? So I wanted to let people tell their narrative to why this is. Now, there's a few things, because I get asked this often. And I love that the Black Lives Matter stuff came into play, because what it did is it got people to start listening to these stories, because there's one thing telling the stories and then there's another thing if people are going to listen. From the very moment a black person or a person of color walks into any institution like a hospital or whatever, people need to start understanding what have they experienced before racially, where they may come into this space and maybe not trust me. Racism has been a part of our lives, as you know, every day. We live with racism every day. I grew up in Norfolk for 10 years of my life. Racism is very much in my makeup. You know, I have been on the receiving end of racial abuse. So not always are people of color going to trust somebody with their healthcare. The way that everything looks, or the way that these experiences have made people feel, is that people of different races and the healthcare system and everything else here are against them. So from the very first moment that person walks through the door, understand why they may have their back up, why they may ask loads of questions, why they may have different concerns and needs. The second thing is that, and this is the 50% of the problem, is that culturally within our own races, we don't have enough education around cancer and critical illness. If you have an illness, you're told, oh, you know, God will save you. If you have an illness, you're told not to take drugs because the drugs are going to kill you. You're told, oh, you know, you've got cancer because, you know, you've been cursed because, you know, you've done something in the past. You're told, you know, don't have this operation, or don't cut your breasts off because God wouldn't want you to cut your breasts off and you'll never be married. These are the things that are happening, and they're making people's cancer journeys 10 times worse. Can you imagine? And I'm telling you this because I know this has happened to some of my women, and these are the stories that I've heard. People being diagnosed with cancer and their families saying, don't take chemo. People being diagnosed with cancer and people are expected to come home from chemo, cook dinner, and still have to entertain their husbands.
And you're right.
You know, women that have been, you know, told not to come to family gatherings because they don't want to catch the disease. And this is what is the biggest problem that's happening. So there's two things. Number one, yes, we need the education within our community. That is key, because it's making people not get checked out, scared and worried, and also feeling more ashamed and more to blame for their diagnosis. But on the second half, what we're asking our healthcare professionals to do is also educate yourself on what is happening in our communities, so that you know when that person walks through the door, there is a mutual understanding of the hardship that that person may be going through. Because we get told, oh, that person's aggressive and that person asks too many questions and they're giving me a hard time. And you must understand why
they are asking, because they don't know what is on the other side that they have to transpire that information to. So I really appreciate you, because this has really changed your view that you've now started this blog, which is really amazing. The charity as well.
Yeah.
Because I think you're getting more women to talk about it openly,
Yeah.
especially the ethnic minority ones who do not have their voices.
Yeah.
So in your learnings of life, you've gone through breast cancer, you've done this music, which dance, which you're helping so many young people. You've won numerous awards, nominated for awards, and I hopefully keep winning them. And you've gone through abuse. In your journey of life, yeah, what is one message of that you would take away to someone out there who's listening to you right now? What is one message that you could tell them?
The biggest lesson I'm learning still to this day is how short life is. People think life is like a dress rehearsal, that we're getting prepared for something that big that's coming, when actually that's not what life is about. It's about momentarily and living life. If you want something, make it happen now. Don't live your life on limitations. Like, I have to marry that with the fact that life is too short and we need to stop walking around holding grudges and holding hate in our heart. Forgive. I recently had one of my closest friends pass away. She was one of the people that I spoke to on a weekly basis. And she also had cancer. And you know what? One of her messages at the end of her life was that love really is all that matters. That's all it is. You do not care about the rest of the stuff. Love is all what matters. And there's so much power in forgiveness. And I think we sell ourselves short sometimes, walking around with grudges, being angry, not letting things go. And all that does is limit us. And I let all of that stuff go a long time ago, because I realized, particularly when I realized in my cancer battle that I was going to live and I was going to beat it, and I was one of the lucky ones. All I wanted to do was get back to life, to say, do you know what? I'm not going to be angry again. I'm going to live every day being very, very thankful. Whatever anyone's done to me right now in this moment, I don't care. I let it go. Doesn't mean I have to go to them and say, I let you go. It just means for myself, I've forgiven them in my heart so that I free myself of that pain and I can move forward. And that has really served me well, because I actually live a lot better life now, and I'm a lot more happier of a person than I was when I had cancer.
That's so amazing. What's in the pipeline for you? What do we expect, and where do we go to go see any of your work you're doing, and how can we support anything you're doing?
Well, do you know what? After all doing stuff for everybody else for the past 20 years, I recently released, I'm going to get it, a little journal. I'm going to send you one as well, Anne. But it's called the Positive Day Planner, and it's a little journal that I'd done when I was going through cancer, and it really helped me day to day. And I just made it on the computer. But it was something when I was recovering from cancer that I'd done every day because I needed to pick myself up. And it was all those little tools that I wrote in my book that you read, but also things that I'd learned from the past around gratitude and stuff, and things that, whilst I was rebuilding my life after cancer and trying to repair my broken body, but also my broken spirit, it was something that really, really helped me. And so a month ago, I turned 3 years cancer free. And so as a give back, I kind of released the journal, and it's very cheap. It's £10, including postage and packaging. It's online. Anybody can go and get it, but it's a 21-day journal planner. And it's designed to improve people's moods and just day-to-day me time and create your own happiness.
My final message for Leanna would be, what would you say to a young person who's going through abuse and right now, or who's going through who's just they're being diagnosed with cancer? What would you say to them right now?
I would say find someone you can talk to. Do not keep it to yourself. I did that with the abuse. I kept it to myself, and I was scared to tell others. And actually, by telling somebody, it released me of that guilt and that shame. But also, don't be scared in seeking help. Like, with me, I have had a lot of counseling and therapy and a lot of things to kind of renew my mind and help the the renewal process, really, and the rebuild. I've had a lot of help with that, not just from friends and people that I love, but from professionals as well, you know. So I would say to anybody, get in touch with people. There's some amazing cancer bloggers out there, people that have gone through sexual abuse. There's some amazing platforms that you can just, that are offering even like free counseling, that are offering support services. Like, look at my Black Women Rising project that I run. People know you can find us online. You can literally put us into Google or Instagram, and as soon as you send us a DM, we will respond. And people have sort of messaged me, particularly in the last week, and have sort of said, "Oh my God, thank God I found you. I'm going through cancer alone. Like, this is what we're here for." And that's the amazing thing, because when I was going for all these things, there wasn't anything out there like this. So there's more and more services. It's the good side of social media, is that there's more and more services that you can access, and they're free, where you will meet like-minded people.
Has COVID changed your way of doing business in any way? The way you're helping others? Has COVID made you think about that in any way?
We're just helping people online now. We try to normalize it as much as possible. I think people have got used to it. I think for our support groups, we used to run them face to face, and actually putting them online has allowed women from all over the UK to join us. So now we have women from all over the UK that join our online support groups, which is fantastic. So that's something that we're going to definitely implement now for the longer term. So yeah, I think COVID has worked out brilliantly for us.
Oh, that's great. Well, Leanne, thank you so much for sharing your story. Is there any way anyone could support you, so we could go, they could get your book, lose control.
Take control, that's fine.
Take control, and they could also support the charity in any way. And yes. I will encourage people to do so, because the work you're doing is truly amazing. I really love your story in the sense that you touch all aspects of life. You just don't touch the abuse. You don't just talk about helping others. You touch about your own personal story, which is living with cancer, which is such a traumatic thing to go through. Living with any kind of illness is very difficult, but you've shown us that as long as you're true to yourself and you believe in your worth, you will fight it. But did you have a fighting spirit when you were going through cancer? Because I always have to ask people that thing, because I always say to people, when you have an illness, you need a fighting spirit.
Yeah, you do.
That one?
Yeah, you had to. Definitely. I turned that on. It wasn't there at the beginning, and that's allowed.
Yeah.
But you do. When you realize that you're going to do it, and you're going to go through it, and you're going to go through the drugs and everything else like that, there is a fire in you that you never knew you had, and a strength that you never knew you had, and it comes. And you don't know where it comes from, but it comes. And sometimes you will even be in your own body and go, what's going on? But it's there, and that is your fighting spirit. So yes, you definitely have it.
Okay, thank you so much. We'll look forward to speaking to you again soon. Thank you.